I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Robert.
And we're talking about it.
Hey, we're sorry we haven't been around for a while, but we had some family things going on, and Comic Cons going on, and other stuff going on.
So, for starters, congratulations to my brother Alex and his new wife Carly.
Yay!
They got married.
Yay! And it was a lovely, fun wedding.
It really was. And then I was on several panels for New York Comic Con, and it's still not entirely over as of this recording, so I still have more apparently. But now we're recording a lot to get back to being ahead rather than behind. So we do apologize, and we have some cool stuff coming up.
Right, and I want to just give this to you, and I just want to put a bug in your ear really fast. So after we finish talking about all the chapters in Lord of the Rings, we're going to watch the movie and then have some friends help us talk about it.
Right, so specifically the first movie, The Fellowship of the Rings. We're actually going to have my best friend on, whose name is also Evelyn, and her boyfriend, who is a huge Lord of the Ring nerd. So we're bringing in some people that we actually know really well for this one, and we're going to have a fun time with it.
Yeehaw!
Yay! So after this episode, we have one more book episode, and then we'll be going into the movies. So, oh my gosh, we're almost at the end of season 2.
Season 2?
Yeah, we decided to split this up into 2 seasons since there were 2 books for each.
See, it's been so long ago, I forgot.
Yeah. So
Look at the little bunny hop away.
And I guess we'll get into what my predictions actually were, which was I predicted that pretty much the second that they leave Lórien, that Gollum was going to show up. And we'll get to that at the end of the chapter. We'll see whether or not we're going to count that one at the end of the chapter. And then we also had me saying that... Oh my god, I already forgot. Then I also said that Boromir was going to complain some more. And that Merry and Pippin were going to do something stupid.
I'm shocked, I tell you.
I know, I picked some easy ones there. But I did take a hard stance on the Gollum one. I did say the second, like, within a chapter of them leaving Lórien, Gollum was going to make an appearance. That I'm standing by that prediction.
But that's not a prediction for this episode. This could be a prediction for next episode.
Well, I thought it was going to be a prediction for this episode because I thought leaving Lórien, they would actually freaking leave.
They do. And the last sentence.
Yes. So let's get into it then.
All right.
Because this chapter was misleading. Unlike the other chapters, which have been pretty straightforward and helpful with predictions. Well, this one was not.
So even though you've said it twice already, what is the name of this chapter?
Actually, I didn't quite say it. It is Farewell to Lórien, which we established at the end of the last episode is just another word for Lórien.
Well, it shortens it.
It just shortens it, yeah.
Because Lórien means blossom of the Lórien.
Cool. Okay. So this is Farewell to Lórien. And it's just a chapter of them trying to leave and not really wanting to.
Well, and also the Lord and the Lady want to make sure they're ready for their journey as well.
Right.
So,
and the perils on the way.
And it starts right out with Celeborn says, the long home of those who fall in battle. This is a reference to the Norse Valhalla.
Okay.
And which, of course, Tolkien took out of all his Middle and Old English. But it's interesting because the spirit of elves who die don't go to Valhalla. Matter of fact, we don't know if anybody from Middle-earth goes to a place like Valhalla.
We don't know that they don't either.
Well, but we do know the elves that are killed go to Mandu.
Okay.
And no one, not even the most wise of Middle-earth, know where the spirits of men and hobbits go after a time of waiting in Mondos, because they do leave. But they don't know, nobody knows where they go after they leave it.
So I'm getting like Catholic purgatory from that. Is he taking that from Catholic purgatory, or am I off?
No, because remember, because it's heaven for elves, so it's not going to be purgatory for hobbits and humans.
Why would hobbits and humans only go for a short time, then go somewhere else?
It's their gateway into the next place.
Okay.
All right. So
like Jupiter? Like they go into space? I'm just imagining them going to a new planet.
So...
Did I totally derail you? I'm sorry.
Oh, that little space above my eye hurts. So dwarves believe that after they die, their creator cares for them and gathers them up in mandos, which is the correct way to say it. I was leaving off the S a few times earlier. But in a separate great hall. Mm-hmm. They're still mandos, but they are away from everybody else.
So they've got their own private party going on.
Right.
Okay.
And also need to point out that the company, the Fellowship, still has not quite decided on their next course, especially because they don't have Gandalf to lead them.
Yeah, especially Aragorn is well, I had my plan, but that was assuming that Gandalf was still going to be around, because who could have guessed that he wouldn't be around? So they have to figure out what they're going to do next and how they're going to do it next, and that's just yikes.
Right.
Because his original plan was to go with Boromir to try to raise up Gondor to create an army if needed against the Dark Ones.
Right. But they get asked, which side of the river do you plan on traveling on? And it's like, wait, what? I mean, they hadn't even thought about this yet.
Yeah.
As a group.
Right.
But they're told that there are going to be some boats for them.
Yes. Boats that are light enough to carry, when they reach turbulent waters that they can't pass through safely.
Such as the rapids of Soren Jabir, which means the rapids of the spikes.
Ooh.
And the falls of the Roros. The falls of the Roros, which is roaring spray.
So as someone who did a lot of whitewater rafting and whitewater canoeing as a teenager, this sounds awesome.
Well...
But also really terrifying.
But it's not awesome sounding to Sam at all, because Sam thinks boats are as bad as wild horses.
That is true. To hobbits, water is not good. Though, Mary does kind of pop up at one point saying, hey, I'm a hobbit that knows about the water.
Right.
And about boat travel.
Right, because that's the part of...
Brandyland where they're from, yeah. Because most hobbits are not very comfortable around water, but they are the rare exception.
So they get together because no decision has really been made. And Aragorn is still trying to decide what to do, as Evelyn said, since Gandalf was off. Decide what to do since Gandalf was gone. Frodo didn't speak at all. Boromir wants to go back home. And as he says this, his eyes are fixed on Frodo.
And Frodo remembers something that he had said earlier about not throwing it away, wondering if he's referring to the ring. And I wrote in my notes here that it seems like Boromir might start to get corrupted by just being around the ring.
But there's a double meaning the way it's said here too, about throwing lives away as well. Boromir talks about throwing lives away.
Yeah.
In a battle.
Right.
Instead of keeping it safe.
Yeah.
And then we get to the first set of gifts.
Yes.
The first set of gifts from the elves. You want to talk about the waybread?
So, the waybread, or the lembas, is this small wafer that a single bite is enough to get a full-grown man through the day. And I think it was hilarious that Gimli takes a bite and is like, oh, this is sick. And he starts trying to eat more, and they're like, whoa, you don't want to do that.
It's like, and it's better than honey cakes, is what he says.
Yes.
And One reason why he starts chowing it down is because they have a version, and men, the humans, have a version of whey bread too. But
it's just not nearly as nutritious.
Right.
So they have to be like, yo, you need to stop before you hurt yourself. So.
And then they get the hood and cloak.
Yes, they get these beautiful cloaks with not really a defined color. They seem to change based on where they're standing in the sun or the shade. And then they get these gorgeous silver leaf cloak clamps, which obviously the scene from the movie immediately sparks into my head in that famous picture of all of them in those cloaks.
Right. And it's a green leaf veined with silver. And Tolkien describes these cloaks as light but still warm. And it's made out of some type of silken stuff. And they're light to wear whether it's warm or cold. And it will help keep them cool or keep them warm when need be.
Right.
Also supposed to help keep them out of sight.
Yes. It gives them a +1 to sneak. D&D reference.
All right. So, when Tolkien was asked about the Limbus, he said it was like Eucharist being given to a person near death. That's what he was thinking of it as.
Okay.
It was a blessing, and it was an attempt to feed that hunger in the heart. And just like the Eucharist, according to the old Catholic tradition, back before Vatican II, the Eucharist itself was better the more you had fasted before it.
Cool. So I'm going to pause because I know what Eucharist is, but I realize that other people might not. I know because I'm a pastor's kid, but I think you should quickly explain what that means.
Okay, so Eucharist is communion. Communion for Roman Catholics, Episcopalians, Lutherans, Methodists call it Eucharist too. Some other churches call it Eucharist. But it's basically communion, the blessing of the bread and wine during a Christian worship service.
Mm-hmm.
And for Roman Catholics, Eucharist is the center of worship. And being able to get Eucharist as something to calm the soul as you're near death is supposed to be something that really is supposed to get your heart ready for whatever's going to happen.
Okay, so we've covered that. And then something else about the clothes that I wanted to mention is the elves say that never before have they clothed strangers.
Right.
Like, they've never used these special cloaks and these special clamps, these fasteners for non-elves. And it implies non-Lothlorians.
Right, and it's interesting because they seem like... So it's interesting because the elves giving these gifts away, it's almost like we're giving you everything we can because we're booking out of here.
Yeah.
So by giving them all these gifts, something they've never done before to anyone outside of the elven people, it's kind of like this is the last-ditch effort to help not just them, but the whole world.
Yeah. It does seem that way, that there's so much writing on... seem like the stakes are higher than they've ever been at this point in the Middle Earth. So they have to.
Right. And what's really interesting is that... And one of the things I find interesting is that Haldir has come back to be their guide for a while. Well, and remember, he had taken off.
Right.
And he was supposed to have taken off to the edge of the woods and now come back.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you an idea of how long they've been there, even though it might not seem like they've been that long there. But one of the things he states is that when he went northward towards their home, they would not be able to get back home. So it's either continue or stay here. And that also talks about this. He also talks about this storm on top of a mountain. And Tolkien is suggesting that the battle between Gandalf and the Balrog is still taking place. And that's why there's rumbles from the mountain and there's a storm on top of it.
Okay. Interesting.
So, and then as we continue on, Tolkien works to help visualize the journey. He talks about a lawn of shining grass, the silver lode glittering, the great river rolling along its broad waters.
He uses some beautiful imagery here. Like, I honestly felt like I could see it in my mind.
Right. And then it's interesting because there was some editing from the first edition to like the editions that we read now, which were the final edition was from 2004. Because in this part, when he first wrote it down, when he first wrote this, he had not really finished his map in his mind. So in the first edition, he's talking about going in different directions than what they end up going in.
Okay.
On the further shores, the woodlands still marched on southwards, as far as eye could see. That's another place where the original said the eye could see. So are we talking about a person's eye, or are we talking about the eye of Sauron? So
okay.
it depends on the wording. Christopher does not address this and says it was originally... Christopher does not address this and doesn't say whether it was because of Sauron's eye or not.
Okay.
So it's still kind of a secret to us what Tolkien was thinking there.
Gotcha. So that leads me... Oh my gosh. Never mind. Keep going.
Well, then another gift they get are these ropes.
Yes.
These thin ropes, but they're very sturdy. And Sam had been worried about forgetting a rope ever since he left.
Yes, he mentions that.
So now he gets his rope. And this is one reason why every D&D character makes sure they have a rope with them.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is the ropes are made out of what's called The ropes are made out of what's called hithlane, which means mist thread. So it really makes you wonder what they're made out of.
Yeah, what they're making them out of. And Sam's very interested, and they're like, oh, if we would have known you were interested, we would have shown you.
Right.
Which makes me think the cloaks may be something very sacred and a secret, but they're like, no, rope making's dope. Let's teach you all.
But maybe not. Maybe it's only because Sam's infatuated with elves, not in a negative way.
True.
Also, this might be the last chance for them to teach someone their craft.
Oh, that's true too. To keep the old ways going.
Right. Now, these boats will not sink, no matter how loaded down they are.
Yes.
Which is important when you think about Gimli.
Yeah, he's dense.
Yeah. But speaking of Gimli, Legolas and Gimli have become fast friends.
They've have a bromance going.
Right. And then...
And here's the thing. I wrote this down in my notes. I do not read Lord of the Rings fan fiction, mostly because I've never read before. But I have a lot of friends who do read it and are very invested in Gimli Legolas. And I can see why. I'm definitely like, I don't ship it myself, but I see it and I respect it. Just wanted to point that out.
I don't, while that might be there, I don't think that was Tolkien's intent.
No, I don't think it was his intent either, but
especially being a staunch Catholic.
Right, but I can definitely see how people can read it as something more. Especially that whole enemies to lovers trope is very popular in fan fiction. So,
but there was no such thing as fan fiction back then.
Yeah, thanks Star Trek for that.
But, like I said, these boats don't sink. And Legolas and Gimli have become fast friends, so they are in a boat together.
Right. Okay. While everyone else is in another boat.
Well, other boats.
Other boats, yes.
And as they start off, and then as they start to take off, this swan of great size appears. And then music's coming from it. And finally, they realize it's a ship.
Yes.
And Celeborn and Galadriel have a song. They have a song, Evelyn.
They have a song. What a surprise.
Yes. And it's a song they sing off of each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to sing it here. I joked about singing it. But it's very particular that you read this, and also might want to say it out loud as you read it so you can hear what's emphasized and hear the rhythm.
It was an interesting song. I haven't been too keen on the songs in this book, but this one I really liked.
Yeah. And just when we thought they were on their way, suddenly we get another parting feast.
Yes, one more final feast.
But Frodo ate and drank little, paying attention only to Galadriel.
Right.
And here Tolkien goes again talking of time as one thing that Tolkien often does throughout these books is talk about time as if it's a stream of water. So we get that here as well.
Yes, I actually wrote it down because I thought it was so beautifully put. He describes Galadriel, present yet remote, a living vision of that which has already been left far behind by the flowing streams of time. And I just love that. I just thought that was just so beautifully put.
Right. And then as they're heading out, they come across what's called, well,
first they're given more gifts.
They're given more gifts. But they're also told about the tall island of the Tendrock. This means a sheer-sided island. So there's no visual way without a lot of hardship to try to climb it and get onto the top of it.
Okay.
So starting right here is where we can find a lot of names that Tolkien has gone to explain what they are and what they mean. He actually wrote a paper, The Nomenclature of the Lord of the Rings, so that other countries that were translating his books would know what it meant.
Oh my god, nomenclature just brought back like vivid, harsh nightmares of chemistry. Sorry.
And then they...
Oh, Chem. It's a nightmare.
But before gifts, they briefly talk about what directions to go.
Okay.
So Boromir says he wants to leave the river and cross the Entwash and go back towards home. But in order to do so, he would have to go through the area of the Rohan. Boromir tells a tale of his encounter with Rohan and gives us an image of this land for now, which, again, is a foretelling.
Yeah.
Galadriel and Celeborn share the cup of farewell with them.
Yes. Their final farewell.
And then to each member of the company, there's one more gift.
A very personalized gift.
And this is a custom that's found in Beowulf.
Yes.
More gifts to the fellowship. So Aragorn gets a sheath, which calls to mind the sheath of Excalibur.
Yes.
Again,
Perfectly fit. Sorry. And it's made to perfectly fit his sword.
Right. And there's something special about it as well. And again, Galadriel is predicting that he will become the Elisar. He will be the king, but not in those words. By giving him that green stone, that elf stone, really means something special to Galadriel, the elves, and Aragorn. Others might not realize how much is there.
Okay.
Matter of fact, when you go back into some of the history of Lord of the Rings, this particular stone is probably the same stone that Gandalf gave Galadriel.
Oh.
Way back when.
At the beginning of time.
Yeah. Boromir is given a gold belt, which is interesting. He's given kind of like a treasure.
Okay.
More than a helpful gift, if you think about it.
Well, so are Merry and Pippin in the same vein.
But they're given silver belts, and silver is not necessarily considered as fine as a precious metal.
Right.
And silver, when silver tarnishes, it becomes dark. So it doesn't reflect light. But the gold belt, gold doesn't tarnish.
Mm-hmm.
So his belt would be able to be seen even in the gloom. So,
or is that a foretelling of what she hopes they will become, where he seems to be very close to being corrupted. Hopefully he does not get tarnished, whereas Merry and Pippin, as they explore the world, they become more mature.
Yay!
Oh, did I get something right? Yes! Oh my god, I'm so excited.
So
cool.
And then Sam is given this really cool gift. He's given this box with a G on it. And what does the G stand for?
Galadriel.
Or garden.
Well, she says it stands for Galadriel.
Yeah, but it can also stand
for garden. Because it's dirt. But it's not any dirt. It's special dirt. Sorry, that's a very long-running family joke.
It's a Lothlorien.
It's a Lothlorien dirt. But it actually is, though. It's Lothlorien dirt from her own private gardens. So it's for when Sam returns, he can plant his garden and it'll bloom like never before. And I think that's such an awesome gift because, one, it kind of means Sam doesn't really need anything extra. Like, she's expecting him to get home. So she wants to continue, because she's the lady of the forest, so she wants to continue the abundance of her land.
But also, it's a foretelling that he's going to need to bring the land back.
Yeah.
To something that can be farmed and gardened and so forth.
That's true, yeah. And Sam is quickly becoming like one of my favorite characters. I'm understanding a lot. I'm understanding you now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely understanding now. But that being
Sam
said,
is the star of the book.
That being said, Gimli is still kind of in the lead right now as my favorite character.
Right.
Because he's trying so hard not to ask for anything. And I love how Galadriel's like, no. What do you want? I'm going to grant it. And I think it's because she knew what he would ask for, and he asked for just a single...
What? Stop. Before you say that. So as he's trying to defer getting anything at all, Galadriel tells him, let no one ever say again that dwarves are grasping and ungracious.
Yeah.
Because he's not grasping for treasures. He's not being ungracious for the wonderful way he's been treated.
Yeah. It's definitely really mending elf and dwarven relationships right here.
Right.
And so he ends up asking for a single strand of her golden hair because he does think that she's one of the most, like, the most beautiful creature he's ever seen. And she gives him 3.
3.
Which I know is important, but I don't know why. I just know that all of my friends are like, she gave Gimli 3 strands of her hair. And they, like, make a big deal about this. So I want to know why this is a big deal.
Well, so this is how it goes. 1 is happenstance. 2 is coincidence. 3 is meant to be.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. And it's also, and of course, when we're talking about Christianity...
Oh, 3, yeah.
We got 3. 3's a big deal.
But I'm under the impression that her giving even a strand of hair is a big deal.
Oh, yes. Giving a strand of hair is a big deal. And what's really interesting to me is that Tolkien may remember what was known as hair art from the Victorian age.
Okay.
Right? So people would take hair off a dead relative and make something out of it to be able to wear it as jewelry.
Gross.
And be able to keep.
I'm not doing that when you die.
And then when he says he wants to put them in a crystal, that's what they do. They might like weave a little S and then have it put behind a crystal against a piece of gold. And that's how they would wear it as jewelry.
That's really weird.
It is really weird.
It's really weird.
But if you also think about this, a strand of your hair, it's a very sentimental gift.
Yes.
It's not a gift to give somebody a leg up on their adventure. It's not a gift that is useful in any way other than to lighten his heart. And he even says, these 3 golden hairs, gold has no dominion over them.
Right. Never mind. I forget what it was, so I'm not going to say it.
And Frodo, what does Frodo get?
I didn't write it down.
Frodo is given a little vial which has light of the Airfindel, which is the star. And this is the light of the 2 trees from creation. So he's given this light that cannot be extinguished.
Yeah.
Even the deepest, darkest gloom cannot extinguish this light.
Which, I mean, talk about religious overtones.
Oh, but yes, yes, there's religious overtones here, but without spoiling anything, this becomes helpful later on.
Oh, well, I'm assuming so.
And then we get another song.
Yes.
And they sing it in Elvish.
I noticed that.
And Frodo tries to translate it. But he can't really translate the words, but he can translate the meaning of the words because of their way they're singing, how much heart they're giving into it. And then as they sing, Galadriel once again flows down the river, flows down the water of time, never to be seen again by anyone outside of the forest. And of course, eyes are filled with tears.
Oh, they all cried.
Gimli weeps openly.
Yes.
And nothing else seems like it can ever be fair and lighthearted again.
Right.
Hit pause for me because I gotta look something up. So these last paragraphs of this chapter really starts pointing us into a darker area.
Okay.
So the paragraphs after, So these last few paragraphs really start pointing towards a darker journey.
Okay.
We get bare woods along the bank.
Yeah.
The breeze has died away. You don't hear any birds singing. The sky is like a high white pearl. The sun up in the sky is like a high white pearl.
Yeah.
More than, the golden sun rays that would feel comforting.
It really kind of gives off the image of the sun through like clouds and fog.
Right, and then far into the dark, quiet hours they floated on, guiding their boats under the overhanging shadows of the western woods. Great trees passed like ghosts, thrusting their twisted, thirsty roots through the mist down into the water. It was dreary and cold. Frodo sat and listened to the faint lap and gurgle of the river.
Yeah.
So that's
the chapter.
Yeah, so that's the end of the chapter that started a 3-chapter journey of some hope and luck.
Yeah.
And right now it almost feels like it's just been pulled away.
Right. Which is going to lead into my predictions.
What are your predictions, Evelyn?
All right, so the first one, since they technically only left in like the last couple sentences, I'm going to say that my Gollum one is going to retroactively work in this next chapter.
Okay.
Where in this next chapter, I am definitely saying Gollum's going to show up.
Okay.
I'm convinced he's going to show up like the second they hit the shore or something. And then I'm also going to predict that... Oh, sorry. And then something that stuck out to me earlier on in this chapter is about the boats. When they said they're unsinkable. So I'm going to guess that something's going to happen and a boat's going to go under.
Okay.
Not all the boats, but at least one of the boats is definitely going to sink.
Okay.
Okay, now I need a third one, though.
Well, the next chapter is called The Great River, and we know they're on a river. So
We know they're on the river.
So what do you think that might be foretelling?
I mean, again, the sinking boat.
No, what?
All right, so my last prediction is going to be that Boromir is going to change his mind and continue on with the entire company.
Okay.
I know he dies at some point, but I'm going to guess that before he dies...
Spoilers!
He's going to change his mind. I mean, it's Sean Bean. If he's playing a character, it's more of a surprise if he doesn't die. Let's be real.
All right. So our next episode, the next episode we're listening to two different. We're listening
to 2 chapters.
Right, but you only talk about the next chapter as in your predictions.
No, we'll do the same thing when I do doubles. I'll write my predictions at the end of the chapter before I go to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next episode is going to be our last chapters of this book. We're reading the final 2 chapters because they're both short chapters. So we're combining them into one. So we're almost done with this first book. How do you feel about this?
I am excited because if you get through this first book, you're going to be rewarded by having the next one.
Okay. Because for me, it's always been a struggle getting through those first few chapters. Like I said, I had never gotten to Tom Bombadil before. All right, so we'll see you next time. I have been Evelyn.
And I've been Robert.
And we're talking about it.
Thank you so much for listening. I have been Robert.
And I have been Evelyn.
Podcasters are Robert and Evelyn Lewis.
Edited by Evelyn Lewis.
Produced by Robert Lewis, Evelyn Lewis, Regina, and Comic Canary.
Music provided by Ben Sound. Link in the description.
Support us on Patreon at Talking About It Podcast.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Talking About It.
And Twitter at TokenPod.
Thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.